Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel here today. Today we're going to be tackling episodes 17 and 18 of Mawaru Penguindrum as my camera refocuses as well. And we're very excited to be here, continuing our little Penguindrum journey. Last week, just the one episode with just 16, a kind of look back at Natsume and her early life and some of the decisions they made, which have impacted the present and the character she is today. Again, as I theorized last week, largely channeling a lot of the grandfather, perhaps subconsciously, not actually knowing it, becoming this villain in front of herself, becoming the very thing that she hates, all in order to protect somebody. And this got me thinking, kind of in combination with another comment that I had on another episode earlier that I just saw as well. Something akin to Momoka, and that being an Utena reference, right? And again, I talk about Utena a lot on the channel. This one, it's particularly relevant considering, you know, the influences and whatnot. But there's this pink-haired character that seemingly is sacrificing herself for other people in potentially a princely manner. Are we potentially subverting that very similar kind of Utena thing? Yeah, Momoka very similar to Utena in that way. These characters kind of inhabiting all these really protective traits and that kind of leading to toxicity. I think, yeah, again, that's a direction the show is going broadly between Kanba, Natsume, Momoka, lots of characters, even potentially Kenzan and stuff once we get a little bit further in. And of course, I've talked about the parallels between Sanetoshi and potentially an Akio as well. Yeah, I don't have any comments, so that's why I'm kind of rambling. Just trying to set the scene a little bit. I don't really know what direction we'll go next. I guess we still broadly have Yuri doing some stuff. She's still got that other half of the diary. Natsume's still looking for it. We want both sides of the diary together because reasons. Again, that diary seems important to whatever Sanetoshi wants to do. Obviously, I believe that the goddess and kind of Sanetoshi are in conflict somewhat. Or Momoka and Sanetoshi, whatever you want to say. Again, mostly predicated on that shot in the opening where the two are kind of facing off. Again, and then the very end of last episode, of course, had Sanetoshi kind of had Natsume's father there. And again, it's unclear how real any of this is, or it's more figurative. But Natsume's father, Kanba, and kind of Mario next to him, and we're all trying to like influence them to do the same thing. And then Natsume, you're going to be the chosen one. Something to that effect. Again, broadly concerning. I don't really know what that's about, but Sanetoshi has a plan. He is executing on said plan. I would not be surprised if Kenzan back in the day was kind of part of said plan as well. Natsume's father looks kind of similar to Kanba as well, which is a whole other can of worms as well. Yeah, just a lot going on. Sanetoshi, clearly not a good guy. Probably need a little bit more Hamari Double H stuff if I was going to pick a direction. I feel like that's been bubbling away. So potentially that's where we'll go. But let me just read off the Patreons, or patrons. And the Patreon, it does exist. $6 a month gets you access. You can access the videos 1 week early for all my stuff, as well as double votes on polls and Discord stuff, and it's all very fun. So again, if that's something that interests you, potentially click on the link in the description below. Many people have done this, up to and including Mickey Babbers, Charles++, Bananarama Hamadama Summer, Bobbin, Choba Ribby, Dapper Dwarf, Domobot, Ed, Fancy Question Mark, Ferdinand Hernando, Fleur Nightingale, Fruit, Fusel, Gloriana Tenebrae, Glyke, Greybeard, Gus N, Hans Peter, Ika, Inzuchi, Iria, Yaka Yavanen, Jacob R, Joran, Kelvin, Clem, Nosta, Cot Begemot, Lick H, Lou, Marsh, Master Detective, Mistake L. Chen, Molly Weinberger, Mr. Maniacs, Nico Lane, Parnick, Pencil Sharp 333, Ragashingo, Ronlad B&K, St. Lily, Sal, Sam1373, Skeleton, Voiko, Warpv, Without a Net, Yuan Shu, Yuki Ali, Zach, Akomansa, Binchi, Voodoo Chili, Funny Fat Guy, Ice, Koichi Kaito, Matthew Bratcher, and Ron Tiki. Thank you to everybody for giving me money. I enjoy the money. Kind of set us up there already, so yeah, let's just dive into episode 17 of Mawaru Penguindrum, coming right up. Hello, I am White, and I have the episode up there ready to go. 23 minutes and 41 seconds on this one, so sync up accordingly with your own copy. Picture in picture in the description below, and using the DB file set here, of course. Just gonna give it a 3, 2, 1. Radio? 3, 2, 1. Go. Looks like we're diving straight into a train sequence. Ogi Kubo. Most certainly did. Correct. Interesting that you calling her by first name. Transfer Fate. Takoyaki powder. Drugs. Kewpie mayo. Squid. No. I don't think that's healthy. I don't think I'm going to do that at all. Opening? Yeah. Interesting opening scene. I think there's a lot going on with the penguins. Very loud, by the way. Yeah, Kamba's still being Kamba. Very self-sacrificey. You don't worry about that, I'll just do it all. It's like, it's not really the way that we're going to succeed here. The idea of transferring fate as well. Obviously, like the train line thing. It's kind of going on broadly thematically with the show. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Maybe it is time to jump back in with Ringo. Oh yeah, we can't forget about the child broiler as well. How could I ever? Yeah, maybe it's a little bit of Ringo. Feels like she hasn't really. She kind of got assaulted like a couple of episodes ago, but other than that, not really. And yeah, Ringo was never aware that she got saved by Shauma either. Oh, they had a small interaction last episode, I remember, where she seemed like she like reaffirmed that relationship. What are we cooking? Oh yeah, takoyaki. Right? In the hospital room? Sure. Okay, so that's what the... Okay, gotcha. I agree. What an insane thing to do. Interesting. Baldy. She's just like me for real. As a family. Keep looking. Do your job. Slave boy. Oh, thank you. We're just hanging out early, aren't we? Everyone in the show talks in riddles and codes. Sunflower. Well, if Kambas keeps doing what he's told, I guess. Penguin coffee. In like a popper kind of, yeah, weird. Like a carton. What? Looks like some kind of cardigan. Who's it for? No way. Yeah, he hates it too. Show's funny. What is this squid? Anyway. Okay, where's the headdress? What? She's gonna be all better forever. Mm-hmm. Men's tackle? Hey, yo, what the hell? Thought that may have happened. Some kind of survival strategy? Correct. Full sequence? Seems like it. The sonic screwdriver? I don't know, this still kind of bewilders me, this whole sequence. Oh, I should mention it's like 250 degrees Celsius here today. So it may get a little bit steamy in here. Come on. Penguindrum. Hmm? Hey. Okay. Give us a clue. Okay. Okay. Is that just Hamari again? Ew. Alright, goodbye again. Somebody squirted Koopy mayo all over the place. Naked? Alright, what are you two up to? What? Okay, they're boning. Sure. What? Huh. Okay, what? Because you guys have seen it firsthand with Momoka? Tokyo Tower. Well, correct. No, you don't. Well, you learnt that. bet he's correct. The parents did that. What did they say about Momoka there as well? I think I missed that. Yeah, very obviously the alcohol there being pretty important too. The day we played Momoka, fate bound us. Those days were glittering. Framing again. Ugly duckling again? Bro thinks he's part of the team. How is Momoka not dead? Wonder what they meant by that. I don't know, is it? Huh? Very deep. The third act is about to begin. Yeah, I broadly agree. Humans justify anything if they wanna, for what they believe. Where's Himaru? Okay. Are we trusting the process? I'm not. Okay. Drama? She'll probably fucking die, I think. Right? Yeah. Probably. You people are being obtuse. There's a squid? Wait, who's with her? Oh, Ringo, okay. So are you making sweaters for them the entire time? Okay. Alright. Okay. That's fine. The sweaters with the kind of cold idea from the last scene with Yuri and Tabuki is pretty cool. Interested in Shoma's color, huh? Okay. Okay. Is she in the same store? She's looking at like carpets there or materials. Okay, alright. What is Yuri planning? Evil ass motherfucker. Yeah, I thought they were in the same store. I'm in suburb. Well, maybe focus on the prize instead of upskirting women. Say what you want about Yuri, she's that girl with the bag. Hubby. That's cute. Uh. Gun? I've obtained the penguin gun? Yuri's going to shoot Himari? Whom? Whom is here? Yozawaya. Isn't that where Kamba was? I think it was. Penguin with the sweater? She's cool. Oh, it's Natsume. The chosen one herself. She got a bag on her head? What's the penguin doing? Must crush her soon. Our knight in shining armor is here. What? What is this standoff? Do you have the diary on you? They're both trying to out-cunt each other. This is crazy. Mm-hmm. Indeed. I know your motivations. Revolutionize the world? Why is it a crossbow? Gatling gun. Sure. She's gonna shoot you with a 9mm pistol? She'd probably get back by nightfall. Don't know, she likes to drug people and, you know. Oh, Tabuki? It sounded like Tabuki. Oh, those are your exes in the background? Are they? Who are those characters? Why do they have designs? What was that? The sun coming down? You two are freaks. Monogatari vibes from that. Oh, okay, this is all coalescing. So this is maybe how she's going to die. So the separation again's great. Yeah. You're going to need to elaborate, Tabuki, please? Dumbass doesn't know she's about to get killed. What did he mean by that? Okay, weirdo. Well, that doesn't bode well. Unforgiven? Like the movie? We're spreading this out, huh? Tabuki changed his tact a little bit, it seems. He seems like he had no hard feelings, and then Yuri's like, no, you should have hard feelings. So then he kind of bought that shit. I don't know if you've recognized in some of the visual language of the show, but it seems like Tabuki's a little bit subservient to those around him. Just a little bit. Interesting. But obviously, like, Tabuki's the only one there at the moment because Yuri's fighting Natsume, right? So we don't know who won that encounter. So maybe inadvertently Natsume's going to save Himari by distracting Yuri long enough? Maybe. What an odd episode. And then a new song even again. I don't really know what to make of any of that. And then the boys couldn't find her. So Kamba and Shorma have no idea. And Sanatoshi doesn't give a fuck. Dalro, of course. Yamete? God. Yeah, look at this fucking weirdo. And yeah, from there we'll dive straight into to episode 18. I'm confused, but again, that's standard with this show. Radio episode 18 up there ready to go. 24 minutes flat on this one, so sync up accordingly with your own copy. Looks like we're diving into a flashback straight up. Picture-in-picture DB file set. Let's jump in. Radio, 3, 2, 1, go. Flashback. Mother with the parasol. Piano? Brother? Whoa. Sick. Yeah, I'm locked in. You have a younger brother? Yeah, and he seems fucking... He's mad talented. Oh, fantastic. Love the piano work, of course. Stop time? I'm gonna murder my little brother? Self-harm? The fingers! Of course. Of course. And then that's the bird watching stuff, of course, as well. And straight into the opening. I'm trying to see where else Tabuki's kind of complex about talented people versus untalented people comes into it. Of course, his fascination with Momoka, who is extremely special. Is that the same thing as talent? Maybe. Yuri's certainly talented because she was forced to be because of her circumstance, almost, right? Yeah. Very interesting that kind of Yuri has her traumatic backstory with her father, and then Tabuki with his mother, and then their respective kind of relationships with gender. Yeah, okay, that's something to look at too. Yeah, Tabuki stinks of Oedipus complex, right? A little bit. Like, Mum loves talent. Momoka is talented. I'm going to be subservient to Momoka because he's internalizing all this kind of stuff, right? But also, that's a crutch for the lack of kind of love from his own mother. Maybe I'm projecting too early, but it seems like it's something like that, right? And then, of course, the irony is that Himari is so very associated with Momoka even now, right? It's an awesome background. Yeah, that's really cool too. The art of this episode's fantastic. I'm about to change the trajectory of your life. The meaning of my life. Oh, yo! Kamba time. Get the sniper rifle out. Yeah. Seems like he's changed his tune. Correct. It won't accomplish anything. In fact, you're hurting Momoka even now by doing so. This may be a surprise, but I kidnapped your sister. What? Bring your father here? What? Yeah, I'll fucking murder him. Because he murdered Momoka. The Japanese concept of ikiru, which means to live. The child broiler? When I was abandoned by my mother? No, don't take me to the broiler. I don't want to be here. What? Okay. Who are you talking to? What? Momoka's saving me from the child broiler? Love the voice, by the way. You're my family now. Bit of fan family. Let's go. Hawkago team tea time? Sorry, I'll stop. I'll never abandon you. So I have a question, right? Yeah. That's all very interesting too. Himari was here with a boy. Was that like a memory from like the Momoka stuff? Am I making any sense there? That was from the episode Frozen World. I remember that. I don't know. I don't think it was. It was a different shaped boy. I think Momoka Jesus has saved me. Jesus loves you. Oh, that's sick. Show's really good. I'm finally out of my rusted cage and flying into the sky. Lots of stuff. So was that pain to her there almost the same as the pain she gets when she makes her little wishes or changes her fate or whatever? We seem to have associated it with burning before as well, so is that just a different visualization for it? Go, Kamba, go! This guy looks like... This is like a supervillain setup. What are the lights? She's in the tub? Okay. Seems unfair, no? Where's Shauma? Huh. Shady guy. What is he doing? Well, shady stuff in general. Are we going to see Shauma? Nishi Shinjuku? I'm on the train. I'm in the tunnel. I don't have service. Oh, Sanatoshi's here. Hidden camera? Yeah? Well, I don't know about that part. I suspected the first part, though, that they were still the same organization. Well, that would make Sanatoshi involved too, no? I think Himari's going to fucking die. The fingers in the shot there. Jesus. She couldn't save herself. When did Tabuki turn into a Bond villain, by the way? Run, Shauma, run. There's so much going on. Well, the colors on the wire there were awesome. Yeah, the same color, kind of pastel-y color scheme that was in the flashback at the very start. This shit's so dense. You can take this in a million different directions. You really can. I wonder what happens here. Ooh. It's a hair in front of the screen. What the fuck? He's locking in? Is his hand, like, bleeding as fuck? Yeah. Impaired. But yours was self-inflicted. What? You only realize this now? Bro, it looks like he's about to fall. Correct. This change of heart's crazy. He's literally gonna rip himself apart doing this shit. Yeah, that's like blood. The penguin things too. They're like blood vessels almost. Where's Shauma? He's still running. The cherub. This guy's always too late. Well, I wonder where we go from here. Oh. Oh. What? I mean, I know why, but how? We're gonna need to have a serious discussion about the physics involved in that maneuver. Because he was up. Let me go down the U10 elevator. Moto Fukaku. I get it. That was just random as fuck. Well, we still need to get her to the hospital, guys. Come on now. I was fully expecting Himari to die there. Yeah, thoughts? She's still got the diary? Yes. Yeah, I feel like Yuri would have taken the shot. Or are you more mad at something else? You guys are still going, huh? What? I can't leave you with them any longer? Oh, like the bad guys? The organization he's a part of? Sure. Himari's fucking dead? Um, these episodes were crazy. What the fuck? And then this song again. It is hot as fuck. Um, this show's very good though. It's very, very good. Yeah, I'm gonna have a lot to say about episode 18, I feel. This is getting, yeah, it's definitely getting to like Utana levels of like everything folding in on itself, right? You follow the 5 or 6 characters involved in that sequence during this episode on top of the building, and you could see where each of them are kind of coming into this conflict that's presented and how they change throughout it and reflect each other and bounce off of each other. Yeah, it's very good. I also had a broad theory about the child broiler scene, so I'll probably go back to episode 9, I believe it was, and have a look. Kind of that Himari was interpreting some memories from. Well, what is the child broiler? I don't think it's literally a broiler for children. I think it may be like a concept of sacrifices or something. Cute. Mm hmm. Sure. I think the episode is ended. Yeah, odd. Okay, sure. Um, yeah, I don't know what that's about. The episode had like weird timing on the end of it, so I think the time code's going to be incorrect for when I started set it at the start of the episode. Yeah, really odd. But yeah, analysis coming up on those 2 episodes. Might just go cool off first though, because again, I'm sweating up a storm in here. So there we have it, folks. Episodes 17 and 18 in the books. What did I think? This show's incredible. Again, when I say we're getting to that kind of Utana level, I really do believe it. Just again, with all these kind of storylines coalescing, coming together, all their different philosophies at play, and how they're in conflict with each other. In a lot of ways, this felt like a duel sequence from Utana, right? We just have pure ideologies of characters fighting against each other, right? That's what, again, this kind of conflict in episode 18 is meaning to get across, right? How Tabuki feels scorned, again, from his personal circumstances and the tragedy that happened to him to lead him to what he is now. And again, the Takakura is on the other side, not being at fault here, but going through all this pain all the same. Again, like that kind of final line there from Ringo, the meaning in all of this, is there meaning in the sadness and the fate like determining us feeling this way? Is this part of the plan? And Yuri and Ringo still says yes. She still definitely says yes, right? Yeah, again, I just we'll get there and we'll talk about it in a lot more depth, of course. Broader stuff. Sanatoshi's still weird as fuck, which is cool. But child broiler, we got a lot more child broiler stuff, so I'm happy about that. Do love a good child broiler. What else? Tabuki backstory stuff, which again reinforced a lot of stuff around his scars, around the playing of the piano, which I want to say was in the show earlier as well. Very obviously something that is shared between Utena and this as well as just generally why he is the way he is. If I'm interpreting this scene correctly through the middle of the episode, I believe that Tabuki is lying to Yuri right here, right now. And then Yuri ends up coming up with the plan and kind of alerts Tabuki to that of drawing Himari in, and she's going to do something to her, right? Tabuki plans around this and tries to get in early so he can enact his revenge, but he isn't man enough to do it in a way, and then I think Yuri is frustrated with that. Again, we'll talk about it in more depth as it comes up, of course, but Yeah, extremely interesting. I'm a little bit intimidated, if I'm honest. I feel like I always am with this kind of show. It's just very deep, and there's a lot going on, and you can, again, so many different interpretations are valid up to this point, right? So a big question mark as well is Kenzan, is the Takakura father. Does Kamba know where he is? Is he still not giving up that information? That doesn't seem within his character. So is he unaware of that? Is Kenzan alive? We keep saying he's just missing. This feels like a Chekhov's gun type situation, right? Where again, we haven't explicitly said where he is. I just assumed that he died or he was in jail or something. But no, it seems he's still at large, running away, has ran away this entire time, and is associated with whatever Sanatoshi's trying to do. Now, here's my thing. Follow me on this one, right? I'm going to go back to episode 16. So this guy here turns around. His face says father on it, I think, or something akin to that. Natsume rushes on over, right? Disappears into the crowd of people that we think are associated still with Kenzan, right? He looks like he's the leader there in that regard. They're all kind of following him, right? And then Kamba shows up, right? So here's the thing. We got to go back and see Kenzan's character design, but it is also entirely possible that he's grown his hair out somewhat, right? So do you see what I'm saying here? Right? This show already had its kind of incesty stuff, right? Could Natsume and Kamba be siblings? Maybe. That would be insane. Huh. I'm pretty sure that's a crack theory at the moment. We're going to put that in the crack theory camp, but I kind of like it. Let me get up Kenzan's design. I think it was episode 5. No. All right, everyone calm down. It's definitely a different bloke. Definitely. I think the only significance there is that Natsume's father looks like Kamba, which I think is trying to talk to this general adult versus child theme in the rest of the show. Yeah, we'll leave that there. Park that crack theory for later, I guess. Either way, I'm only ever going to get through this episode if I hit play on it, so let's do that. We start the episode with today's slogan, 17. Somebody is targeting you, is the kind of name of that there. This comes around by the end of the episode pretty aptly, right? Because they're targeting Himari. Lots of people are, both Yuri and Tabuki. Again, associating that with double H through this kind of sequence here is pretty interesting as well. Even by the end here, we see there's a Gatling gun up here as well, much like Natsume and Yuri the next episode too, so that's a fun little reference. So in the dialogue here, the boys are discussing how Tokiko Yuri has one half of the diary. This is interesting information. We know that Natsume has the other half here, of course, so, you know. I believe she collected the other half when the whole kind of kidnapping Shoma situation happened, right? I think, in the hospital. Weird. Yeah, so both the boys know where either half of the diary is, and they bring up the question of what they're doing now. Is it still getting the Penguindrum? What's the importance there? All that kind of stuff, which again needs to be reinforced by kind of Himari halfway through the episode where we do survival strategy again, and again it gets reinforced. We also starting to bring up the takoyaki thing here, which is very interesting too. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they're like squid balls or something. Again, I never really knew how these things worked. I know you like cook them in like a batter or something, and then seaweed on top. Seems all very foreign to me, which I guess is only natural considering it is. I think we're trying to say something broadly with sea creatures again, and the penguins, I think. It's also just like a cute thing that, you know, would make her happy. It's like a festival food. If Himari's been, again, almost stolen of her childhood and all that kind of stuff, it's fun to have these kind of, you know, moments of joy with her, of giving her a unique experience. That kind of stuff, I think. Currently, Yuri is trying to transfer fate the same way that Momoka transferred fate. We're talking about like moving train lines there broadly. Again, I don't really know what anybody's goal is, really. I'm just kind of guessing. Yeah, again, I'm looking for a stronger connection with the squid and the octopus and all that kind of stuff, and the spraying of the ink on the guy. And is it just broadly to say that this is self-destructive? Because you're talking about, no, don't worry about that. Don't worry about a treatment. I'll get the money. And then you're getting, like, punished in the background for that? Maybe, sure. Again, you just keep smiling the way you always have. It's like, yeah, again, Kamba's got his own set of stuff, you know? Again, we see that exacerbated, or demonstrated very much so in the end of episode 18, right? He's willing and able to pull his body apart to save Himari, rather than, again, call for help if he did know that Kenzan was there. Is he not calling Kenzan because he would rather save everybody? He'd rather not palm that off to the father? So, question marking that. And even Shauma. So even now, like, Shauma, you just relax, don't do anything, I'll do it all. Shauma could have helped during that sequence if you contacted him earlier. It was only when kind of Ringo got contacted or Ringo contacted him that, that was able to come into action. Again, it would have been a 2v1. He could have helped you, but you didn't let him. I just think this sequence is really cute. I like that they're having a good time. Himari's having a good time. That's nice. Even the penguins getting in on the action. Again, it really does feel like this scene is necessary to this 2-episode arc, whereby, hey, like, Himari's going to be in mortal danger. We should have another reminder of what good family time is with her, so we feel what's at stake. I feel like that's pretty good pacing and pretty good kind of timing with that kind of stuff. I do like watching the penguins. So we got Kamba's penguin here tirelessly working on cutting the stuff while you're kind of absent-mindedly just kind of eating it, that kind of thing, doing a small job off to the side, kind of throwing the material instead of cutting it, if that makes any sense. So again, this is akin to what's happening in the moment as well. Kamba's putting it all on his back, even the stuff that you don't even know about, again, absent-mindedly, while you just watch the door. But again, the opposite is also true. Because of this, Kamba gets the good job. He gets to sit there and actually make the product with Himari, have that experience, while you just get to watch the door. It's almost like we're pushing him out of the way as well. But again, because Himari's a good sister, hey, let's give him some takoyaki off to the side. Remember that he's part of the group as well, part of the family. Make sure that he's concluded in the cooking process, and Shauma praises her for that as well. I don't know what this is as well. Apparently, like, one of the octopus has like these two guys like strung up, and we're like throwing things to get him free. I don't know what any of that's about. Maybe like Himari's trying to save these two from their fate broadly by the very end, because she's willing and able to sacrifice herself, so she's fighting against the same force that is ensnaring you two. Maybe that's too much too early, maybe. This is just red flags from Himari as well. I've been feeling better lately. Dr. Sanetoshi says I can be released from hospital soon. This, in the narrative, means that that is not going to occur. That this is like, setting up a hope that is going to be dashed. I like the flower bouquet here. I wish I was better at the kind of flower language stuff to tell you about it, but I think the sunflowers here are quite apt. Even some yellow roses in the background as well, which I need to kind of go through my Utena lore again and figure out the yellow rose stuff. Wasn't yellow rose Nanami? What the fuck? Anyway, drop that, who cares? The jovial nature of the conversation pushes Himari to start talking about the sweater that she's been making, right? Asking the boys for feedback on a little bit of the color of it, right? What do you think? And then Shauma says, oh, it's a little bit dull for you. No, I'm making this for a man. And then we have Kamba's reaction here, where he like drops the straw out of his mouth. Oh my god, no. So Kamba instantly gets jealous and kind of dismissive about the whole thing. He's like, oh, that color's not my taste, but for that guy. Again, this is predicated on a lot of the stuff, the build up with Sanetoshi. Like, they've been hanging out a lot together, and Sanetoshi's been weird about it. Again, I even think we were bringing up that kind of stuff. Something adult knitting. Again, and I thought that was going in a complete opposite direction. No, it turns out, from the conversation with Ringo, right? You're just making this for these two. You're making 2 sweaters for your brothers, right? And you're just kind of being secretive about it, being a little bit coy. Again, the presentation here and the asking of you guys for advice would indicate to us that it's for Sanetoshi, but no, that is not the case. Yeah, and I find it very interesting that you say, no, that color's not my taste, and that forces her to go get more wool, which inadvertently puts her in danger. Does that make any sense? Like, it's almost like Kamba's insecurity about Sanetoshi was the very thing that pushed her out of the house at that time to go and get different colors of wool. Like, there's a dramatic irony there, I think, that I didn't notice on the first kind of run-through. Very, very interesting. Shauma, kind of in contrast, thinks maybe it could be for him or could be for... And again, we just think that Shauma's being delusional or at least a little bit naive here at the moment. But no, it actually was for you too. Yeah, very interesting. This is a very weirdly framed scene, right? So we look over at the pedestal where the headdress was sitting. It's no longer there. So that's already a question mark in the scene, right? Then we have these two having a conversation over here in the same room that Himari shouldn't be kind of aware of, if that makes any sense, right? They're talking about Himari like she isn't here, right? It would make sense to me if Himari was asleep right now, but she's not, right? So you guys are just like openly talking about this now? Like, she can hear you, you know? Again, maybe she's distracted with, of course, the Men's Tackle magazine. Is that a thing for you, like, Americans and stuff? Is tackle still a euphemism over there? Because if you say somebody's tackle in Australia, it means they're cock and balls. So if you say men's tackle, it has certain implications. I would not be reading a magazine that says men's tackle. Anyway, potentially that's just a me thing. So yes, Shauma in the dialogue here tempts fate and says maybe we don't even need to look for the diary anymore. Because again, the whole thing with the diary in this is that Himari's life is staked on you guys finding the Penguindrum. If that no longer is a thing, then we shouldn't even need to look for it. We don't need to worry about the stuff we presented during the introduction here. But no, you do. Again, survival strategy. Let's reinforce to these good-for-nothing whatever so-and-sos that they do indeed need to find this diary. From here, we do survival strategy sequence again. It's very good. We don't need to continue shouting it out. I will say they didn't do the reaction this time, like the handcuffs together. Like that. They didn't do that, which, yeah, they're just kind of used to it now. They're kind of jaded by the whole process. I think that's a funny progression. Interestingly enough, I believe that kind of the goddess slash Momoka slash Himari here reveals her hand. Kamba asks the question of if the diary is the Penguindrum. And you go to say no, and then realize that you shouldn't be saying that, and then just say, maybe. Yeah, no comment. Essentially that means no. So that's some confirmation for me, right? So the Penguindrum isn't the diary. I know that there is a drum with a penguin on it in the show. I have seen that previously. Potentially that's not the Penguindrum because it hasn't been referenced again, I don't think. So, you know, I think the Penguindrum is something else that we currently are unaware of. But again, that's why you're not telling. This is almost like a fourth wall type thing, right? I'm not telling you the audience, but I am giving you the kind of information that it isn't the diary. The diary potentially gives way to the Penguindrum, if that makes any sense. We get kind of a premonition here, right? So I will tell you that if you neglect to find the Penguindrum and soon, someone in your family will suffer a terrible punishment. I think, again, this is this third party talking. It isn't Himari talking. The someone in your family definitely is Himari. She was going to suffer a terrible punishment. And again, it's almost like this cosmic fate-like thing that was deemed because you guys aren't doing this, right? This could have been avoided if you found the diary. I think in the wake of what happened in episode 18, we're going to double down on finding the diary even again, right? That's why we reinforce that, hey, Natsume's still got her half, Yuri's still got her half. Let's really look for this thing. Again, what we treasure most will be lost. How can that be anything but Himari, right? Shauma starts to have a whinge and is promptly ejected, right? We were having a good time as a family and you interrupted us. Again, goodbye. Let's have a little bit more of a serious conversation here with Kamba. So again, the framing here is very obvious, right? So we let Shauma go and then I get all naked, right? This feels more and more like, hey, the children are gone, let's have the adult conversation here. And again, they're getting that across in the most overt way possible. So again, annoying kid out of the picture. Let's initiate the survival strategy. Naked. And then the colors drop out. It's almost like the artifice and the show of it stops. It's like we stopped filming, you know? It's kind of like that. All the lights go out, hey, let's have a serious conversation here. Where again, Kamba can finally be himself a little bit more, show a little bit of weakness in the kind of face of this kind of goddess type character. Where again, he doesn't need to show off for his brother as much, show off for Himari, he can be vulnerable here, right? He actually is very tired, he's working tirelessly to save you. I think there's somewhat of an implication here that maybe you tell him what the Penguindrum is as well, which is weird. And yeah, this person has the utmost faith in Kamba to be Himari's savior. The Penguindrum is your, and then Kamba still has these like misgivings about the whole thing, says, I can't. But then they like fall on each other. So that's like the whole let's initiate the survival strategy thing again, right? Where it's these two are like implied boning. At least a little bit, I think. Odd. And that's again the survival strategy. Even the love heart, the couple up here. Yeah, again, I'm making kind of inferences, but I'm not seeing the overall point yet. Again, this is where the rewatch is probably firing all your synapses, right? Where you know what this is talking about, and this scene has a lot more depth. So then we have a very, very, very interesting scene with Yuri and Tabuki. I think, again, this has large ramifications for episode 18. This is these two respectively planning their little assassinations of Himari and revenge on the Takakuras and all that kind of stuff. In kind of retrospect, it's very funny that Tabuki kind of says all these things about letting it go and not holding grudges and not seeking revenge, and again is almost like not blaming anybody for it, all that kind of stuff, when that's secretly Cope. He secretly cares a lot, and again that's only revealed to the audience at the end of this episode when he goes kind of insane, when he turns into a Bond villain. I just think that's a really fun twist. I really do like that. Because again, even in this scene, I can't reveal to Yuri that I have these kind of intentions because that'll ruin my plan as well. You know, I kind of need to do this myself because of my special connection with Momoka. Yuri subsequently, I think there's an irony to her words very early here, right? Shauma came up to me, he's seeking the diary, he said something convoluted about his sister and penguins and all that kind of stuff. But of course I'm not going to lend him the diary. His goals are very different to ours. Which again, the irony there is that Himari is so very tied to Momoka. The two of your goals are very similar, and you guys are currently unaware. I do like that, I think. This is where we get introduced to the idea of those kids, right? Those kids, relative to us adults, they can't understand the true value of this diary. This gives off the vibe of this understanding of fate being so very different for people that have lived a little bit longer, right? That are a little bit jaded by everything, that have kind of let their anger and kind of hatred swell a little bit more, right? They can't understand what we're talking about, right? But again, they don't understand that the opposite is also true. You can't see the childish, more innocent point of view on all of this as well, the more optimistic view. Adulthood has jaded you somewhat, I think. And again, I bring this up so much because it's in the visual language of the scene with the alcohol, right? The kids can't have alcohol, right? We have this kind of champagne flute here, and the champagne literally like reflecting Tokyo Tower there and all that kind of stuff, and the association of Tokyo Tower with Momoka. They can't understand the connection that we have, Tabuki and Yuri, with Momoka, right? They just don't have the time investment. They don't understand how special of a person she was. They don't understand why we would seek revenge like this. And again, they can't understand because they're not available to understand it because it's being coded as the alcohol, you know? Yuri here, I still can't forgive members of the Takakura family. Tabuki, you're still on about that? You're still on about that, buddy. I know, I've seen the next episode, right? You're just lying right now. Tabuki is truly fascinating in this scene, right? I do believe there's like, it's almost like a Jekyll and Hyde type situation, right? There's the him that's kind of in the cage and the him that's set free. I think something like that. These two sides where one, he's like logical side, right? Where he's like, yes, no, the parents aren't involved. The parents, you know, the children shouldn't pay for those sins. It was 1,000,000 years ago. Who cares? And then his emotional side, which is still caught up on this, right? And we see the investment. Why? Momoka literally sacrificed herself for me in a lot of ways, right? Of course, it is unfair that she was taken. And I want to enact revenge because of that. And I do like, the two sides here idea. And almost hiding something from Yuri in the framing there too. Very cool. He's saying all the right things here. The sins of the parents aren't shared by the children. It's in that same way that Ringo is Ringo. Ringo isn't Momoka, right? The Takakura children, they're not Kenzan, right? They're not the terrorists. So why continue to blame them? Because again, there's an emotional side that is telling you to do so, that you can't hold back. I think Yuri said some information here that's quite important. Specifically, Momoka tried to stop them. So Momoka tried to stop Kenzan. So again, I'm seeing like Kenzan is enacting the terrorism, right? And then Momoka's like, oh shit, let me stop the terrorism, used her power, and in that way sacrificed herself. That's why we've lost her, right? In that way, reinforcing Momoka's like goodness in doing so, right? Like her sainthood. She is willing and able to sacrifice herself for even randoms on the train. That's how good she is, and it's unfair that she was taken away from us. In true Revolutionary Girl Utena fashion, you could also try to analyze these glasses somewhat as well. Tabuki's being a lot more bare, and Yuri's having a lot more kind of, you know, adornment to it. Again, befitting of her high-class persona and her focus on art and all that other kind of stuff, but also that you're a blank slate, Tabuki. You're hiding stuff, right? I think that's what we're trying to get at here. Again, I think the contrast is very cool. Along with the coloration, I think the coloration is great in the scene in general, too. The light's not on, just these two having this kind of intimate moment late at night. Again, very much associating that with adulthood as well, I think. Wait, both of the champagne kind of flutes there are like next to Tabuki, right? What the hell? So he's having two different glasses? Maybe that's what we're getting at. Is this a cage maybe then? Am I analyzing the champagne glasses too heavily? Potentially. Again, I already talked about the Tokyo Tower wine bottle thing. You have to think about Yuri and all of this, right? This perfect view of the penthouse, looking out and seeing this reminder, this constant reminder of what Momoka means to you and how she saved me from my terrible situation, right? Where again, from the Tabuki perspective, potentially you're looking at this and thinking of a sort of birdcage that you can break out of as well. You have a pure view of like the sky, the freedom there within. And again, this barrier through the frame, right? Hiding on either side, hiding intentions, especially you. Yeah, I feel like I'm underselling this a little bit too. I feel like I'm still skipping over stuff. It's really, really good scene. How could either of us forget how important Momoka is to us? Tabuki and Yuri, the day we played with Momoka, by that memorable pond, fate that binds us. Momoka was our everything. Those days with her always seemed to be glittering. And we see that in the next kind of scene here, right? It is glittering, right? Same kind of framing too, kind of with Yuri on the left here and Tabuki on the right, Momoka in between, same as that wine bottle, same as that kind of Tokyo Tower. We have grown up and Momoka has not. She's been left kind of behind. Only kind of this figment of the Tokyo skyline, right? That we can only kind of gaze upon now, can't engage with us anymore. Again, this bright kind of sunset, her life kind of sunsetting in a way as well. And again, in the present, we're left in the dark. Chasing the two birds as well, chasing the freedom, her leading us towards our kind of perspective strengths. Of course, Tabuki has his bird-watching thing, right? And breaking out of the cage. And Yuri has her ugly duckling thing, right? Which is coming through here, chasing that beautiful swan that Momoka knows that I could be, right? Or knows that I always was. Yeah. This show is so fucking good. This show is so good. Holy shit. I do really think there's somewhat of a religious element for this with Tabuki as well, right? Like, Momoka would not want us to seek revenge. And then Yuri's like, Momoka's not dead. And we can kind of see Tabuki's eyes here, right? He's like, yes, I know what Momoka would have wanted me to do, right? What Momoka stands for. But I can't... In the process of getting revenge for her, I can't stop these urges that want me to hurt other people, that want me to betray her in that way. And again, this is linking into the end of episode 18, whereby the sacrifices of both Himari and Kamba right in front of him remind him so much of Momoka and the spirit of Momoka that he finally comes to his senses and saves her, right? Again, embracing those kind of darkest urges before being pulled back to the light. Yeah. Very, very cool. This room is so cold, I need curtains. Those curtains eventually leading you to overhear the Takakura sister stuff and know about Himari and all that kind of stuff is definitely kind of the plot direction of this development, right? Like, that is what makes Yuri go to where she needs to go, but you must consider the emotional side too. The curtains are blocking out the view of Tokyo Tower, blocking out that view of the memory of Momoka. I need something to hold me back and stop me viewing this vista and stop me from remembering her, right? And feeling so cold and not warm as a result. Momoka being associated with that warmth is very important too when it comes to the kind of sweater and the wool stuff in episode 18 as well, which we'll get into. Again, the irony being, in looking for this way away from Momoka, you find the person that you want to exact revenge on the most. It feels like Sanetoshi was just watching that scene along with us, right? As he kind of massages his two rabbits. I don't know what the fuck's going on. He's like grooming them. It's weird. Groomer? Maybe. Jury's still out. We'll see. Point being, he's talking about the difference between reality and truth. I think this is the difference between perception and objective situation, right? Bias a biased viewpoint versus an objective viewpoint. And of course, this is in combination with, like, it feels like Sanetoshi was just watching that scene, so it must be about Yuri and Tabuki. They're seeing this through their emotional biased lenses, this kind of whatever's going on here, right? Again, it's that same split between emotion and logic. They're seeing the emotional side that is motivating this revenge. They're not seeing the logical side. They're not seeing the actual events of what happened, which again is still a mystery to us at this point. Humans will even kill other humans if they have truth as an excuse, even if that truth is not reality. The reality is that the Takakura family as a whole, especially the children, were not responsible for whatever happened. But again, truth blinds you to that, which leads to Sanetoshi musing about the overall concept of humanity. Maybe it's in our kind of nature. The kind of difference between reality and truth is the basis of all conflict, almost. The difference in perspective there within, and yeah, a war is about to break out. Very teasing for, again, the last kind of arc of the show, the last act, I guess. After the ad break, we're back with Shoma and Kamba here. Himari has left the building. She says she'll be back right away, but eventually gets kind of kidnapped. It's a whole thing. And again, as I said, this is predicated on looking for the wall to get sweaters for the both of you. And again, that ironic twist, she's looking to bring you two warmth, and that's the reason why she's going to die, or why she's threatened to be killed tonight, right? Like, she's kidnapped. That's probably the importance of the very last frame of the two episodes as well, with Shoma embracing both Kamba and Himari, right? Like, I'm the warmth, we're getting our warmth from each other, that kind of whole thing, right? We don't need sweaters for that kind of thing. And again, the ticking time here as well. We need to get Himari back by tonight to have her medicine, otherwise she won't be okay. There will be consequences. Again, Kamba here is still unaware that she's making a sweater for him. He still thinks it's for Sanetoshi, so when the rabbits bring up the Dr. Sanetoshi will be pissed or whatever, right? And he looks down at this, he's like, oh shit, I know where she's going to be. Probably a material store at Yozawaya. Sure. And that's why he goes in that direction as opposed to Shoma, who has no direction, right? That's why Kamba's kind of pissed the entire time as well, because he thinks this is all predicated on Sanetoshi like motivating her and manipulating her to make a sweater for him, right? He feels like it's part of his set of tricks as opposed to just Himari loving you, right? It's very quickly revealed to us, the audience, that yes, you are indeed looking for colors for both Shoma and Kamba. You are making sweaters for them. Himari is also out with Ringo at the moment, which kind of involves her in this whole conflict too. It's a pretty good writing decision to get Ringo involved here, considering how important she is to the whole Momoka idea, spending that kind of first half of the show in a lot of ways trying to embody Momoka, right? Especially for Tabuki. And again, the irony here being that she wants the exact opposite of that now, right? It's almost like her mania transferred onto Tabuki as a character, and we see his true colors come through as well. This is an interesting scene we keep walking past as well of these two mannequins. They eventually get replaced with like a bear and a penguin, I think, right? And clearly we're trying to say something about the two brothers. They're always taking care of me. The two brothers here. Either mannequin, maybe? Yeah, we kind of see it here. It's starting to grow as we kind of walk back and forth across this scene. You associating Kamba's favorite color as like the brown, right? But it wasn't his favorite color as it turns out. But again, Kamba only said that insofar as he thought it was for Sanetoshi. When talking about Shoma's color, of course, Ringo gets involved, considering her infatuation, saying that he needs a gloomy color. Maybe, yeah. Very cute. I like this interaction. Yeah, so what's the bear hunting a fish, but then you're hunting an octopus? I don't know the significance here. This is almost like the Ringo thing of two different plush dolls kind of reflecting either parent, but it's for Ringo with two different plush dolls reflecting either brother, maybe. Weird. Ringo receives a phone call here from Yuri. Yuri's going to try to groom Ringo again, which is very cool, saying that we need to go to the hot springs again. We had a fun time last time, even though I don't quite remember all of it, because I got roofied. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. From here, Ringo accidentally says the wrong thing, that she's hanging out with the Takakura's younger sister. And again, that gives Yuri some ideas, saying that both of them should be invited over for dinner that night. Now, the framing here almost indicates that you see Yuri, right? And you're surprised by that. But that's not quite what happens, even though she's in the same store. Like, you don't seem to see her, I guess. As you're picking out curtains, you get alerted that the Takakura's younger sister is there, and then you want to enact revenge. That's very pointed too. The curtains were to block out the memory of Momoka, but you can't go through and purchase them. At that last point, you get reminded of Ringo by way of Momoka and the need for revenge. But again, that doesn't make much sense in combination with this, because you still end up buying curtains at the very end, saying that you want the most fabulous curtains. Fabulous, of course. Fabulous Max curtains. Yeah, weird. I don't know how that really fits, but I don't know. I like my interpretation. It's still good. The boys are looking at every material store in town. Of course, Kamba focusing in on Yozawaya, of course. It's a weird word to say because he saw the bag and he's a little bit more knowledgeable about that kind of stuff. Again, it probably befits, that aside, it probably befits both of the brothers, right? Shauma's very left in the dark, but purposefully so, right? Kamba's not a very good communicator. He'd rather do it all himself, be very prince-like in that regard. You know, of course, Shauma's not going to know where anything is. He's kind of been pushed aside. He's kind of been left out of this. At that point as well, Kamba thinks about the words of the headdress, right? Your most precious thing will be targeted next if you don't find the Penguindrum. Thinks maybe this is Himari, thinks maybe this is the start of that kind of thing. It most certainly is. Here we have Yuri in the car getting a call from Tabuki as well. I like it's designated as hubby. I think that's cute. So it's really weird here, right? So, like, she gets the phone call, right? She chooses not to answer it and then grabs a crossbow out of her handbag. Again, this would indicate, hey, we don't need to tell Tabuki about this. Let's go and fucking murder this child. Fair enough. But I think Tabuki's also likewise checking on you to make sure you're where you're supposed to be so he can enact his revenge at the same time. I think that's the idea. And it's kind of convenient for Tabuki that Natsume was here at this same point as well, still chasing Yuri down for her half of the diary. We're going to have a big old fight here in the kind of car park. I do like it. It's very spy movie, very, very befitting of these two rich characters, these two upper socioeconomic characters, that they'd be fighting in the kind of car park of this mall. While again, the ones that are associated a little bit more lower socioeconomic are fighting for the actual stuff at the time. You guys are fighting over like nothing while the actual conflict's happening somewhere else. Is that anything? Maybe. This is very cool too. This is almost like a library. Like you'd be like Dewey Decimal to different areas, right? Weird. This seems like another one of Natsume's like investigations or whatever, because she was at Yozawaya at the same time buying whatever she was buying. Natsume also changes her catchphrase here slightly. Gosh, I must crush her soon. Again, talking about Yuri instead of normally about Kamba / her grandfather. The framing of this scene is very odd. It's almost like it's framing Natsume as the hero coming in to distract Yuri, who is heavily implied to want to murder Himari, right? But again, based on last episode, you've been moving more and more towards villain. And based on the episode previous to that even again, you were definitely the villain as opposed to Yuri. And again, I think the show's flippy-floppy about that kind of stuff because it's meant to show moral grey. None of these characters are completely correct with their approaches. Yeah, there's definitely an element of both of you being rich too to this conversation as well. The brand name bags, the mall, the conversation there within, the motivations of either of you to bring Momoka back or change fate or whatever and to save Mario's life. Do you know why a pure maiden like you can't revolutionize your own world? I'm intrigued, do tell. The fear of your innocence being consumed only allows you to see half of the world. Now, this is very interesting, too. This is almost that adult-child type stuff. Innocent versus, jaded and, cynical, right? You feel very adult in this regard. You feel like you have to murder and you have to get revenge because of how cynical you are, right? That the world owes you nothing and all these other kind of things, right? When Natsume is almost that other half, who's almost that childlike innocence in all of this, but still not quite as well. And again, either has either half of the diary, so they're holding on to either half of that concept, right? Only when it's united, only when we take both perspectives, can we actually succeed. Yeah, I think that's the either half of the diary there is very interesting. Yeah, your past expiration, you can only survive by selling yourself at a discount. Yeah. This is all very interesting. I'd love to see some other interpretations here. And again, they're having a very like anime-esque big time conflict here, very flashy, very over the top, while the real shit is again happening away from them, Himari is jumping at the idea of having dinner with Yuri as well. Again, she's this big celebrity. Of course, you would want to pick her mind and pick her brain about all this kind of stuff, right? I also think the location's very important too. This is kind of the location where Tabuki and Yuri kind of had their little dates when they had coffee or cake or whatever, and it was normally kind of you on the outside, but now you're having this kind of conversation and Tabuki's interrupting, So again, the girls probably feel very safe here because then they hear Tabuki, and Tabuki's associated with Yuri, so it makes sense to go with Tabuki to go see Yuri, right? Again, little do they know that Tabuki's enacting his plan here at this time. I had big questions about this. Who the fuck are you two? You two look like two of, his exes, right? I know it's behind my camera. Yeah. What's going on there? Like, is it meant to say something like they don't recognize it's you because of the fucking balls in their head or whatever? Is that anything? Why are these two character designs even here? Like, what are we doing? I don't understand. And here's where the intrigue starts, of course, like, you know, we see that these two aren't where they were before. Kamba just missed them. Naughty girls will be punished if they don't show up on time and all that kind of stuff. And then it kind of gets really suspicious as Tabuki takes them up this elevator. So the elevator is clearly another birdcage, and trapping Ringo in there in of itself is loaded, I think, in the next episode, so we'll talk about that a little bit too. There's a tension here, there's a quiet to the scene that I really do enjoy. I think the soundtrack's doing a lot of heavy lifting. There's a sinister tone to it all, where again, Himari starts to question things. Is Yuri really up here? Well, I am looking forward to seeing her, so I guess it'll be okay. And yes, Tabuki has kidnapped you. You guys are fucked. Hey Ringo, remember what I told you before? Everything has a meaning no matter how sad and painful things may be. Again, this was that conversation by the park that they had in the wake of finding out about the Takakuras. Tabuki invited these two here because he wanted them to know a very important thing, the meaning of his life. I will show you. I've made up my mind. Today I shall hand down the punishment to the Takakura family. Revenge is my sole kind of focus in life. Very obvious stuff with the eyes in the dark here, right? Very, kind of sadistic and corrupted kind of idea. Yeah, I'm kind of struggling with a little bit of the fate idea in all of this, right? That sad things have meaning. And again, I guess your interpretation of sad things and painful things have meaning is that the meaning is it motivates you to get revenge, which isn't the meaning you should take from this kind of stuff. And again, this is pretty obvious, but you shouldn't take revenge, you should process information, you should, you know, mourn the dead and all that kind of stuff, but you should also offer forgiveness and rehabilitation and all this other kind of stuff. And again, that's easier said than done, but that's what should be done, again, and according to what Momoka wants for the world, right? That kind of very Jesus-y type idea. And either way, Tabuki's a creep, and that's like kind of the end of the episode. We'll move on to 18 here. Or maybe we will at another time. It is getting very hot in here, so maybe I'll do that tomorrow. Yeah, I think maybe that's a good idea. Maybe we'll leave it here for today. We'll come back tomorrow or later this afternoon, maybe? Again, we'll see. Either way, I'll see you in a second for episode 18 analysis. Back now with episode 18. Very, very hot day today, by the way. Holy shit. It's like 7 o'clock at night and it's still boiling outside. Anyway, I digress. Let's make a start here. So this episode in total, part of its structure is much like kind of similar episodes we've had recently with the other main characters in the show, i.e. Yuri, i.e. Natsume, just kind of exploring their backstory, what makes them them, what led them to be the person they are today. And with a lot of these characters, it leads back to the parents. Yeah, it's kind of a common theme between everybody now that I think about it. Or if not parents in Natsume's case, at least, you know, guardian figures, with the grandfather, of course. I talked about this briefly already, but it's very interesting that Tabuki's complex seems to be around his mother, whereby Yuri's is around her father. That's an interesting one. So let's get some of the obvious stuff out of the way straight away. I can't help but be reminded of one show called Revolutionary Girl Utena, which had a character that played the piano and broadly had a theme whereby they were associated with a bird stuck in a cage and needed to be let out of said cage. That was actually one of his central motifs. Remember that kind of wind-up kind of toy duck that was kind of running into the wall over and over again? That kind of toy baby chicken? Yeah, that's an interesting one. Maybe a character analog, you could say. And then I feel like we're also combining it with another different character, again, the sibling of said character that had a complex about a brother being better than her at stuff. At least a little bit, or being the preferred child, tying that in with the parents in a very weird way in a look for approval. Yeah, very, very interesting. So again, just to summarize, I'm seeing this as a Miki Kozue thing. Pretty obviously, at least in that same ballpark. It does beg the question that how much is too much when it comes to these kind of very similar stories, references that Ikuhara is using when it comes to this show, when this kind of writing team is working on this. Like they had to have, they saw the other show, they would have had to know what's going on there, you know. Is it too much? Maybe teetering a little bit, but I still think ultimately it's enough of its own thing that, you know, I wouldn't say that Miki or Kozue ever really went off the deep end. Kozue a little bit. And we see this pushed to the nth degree with the character of Tabuki, I feel. Like, this is different enough in that respect, I think. Either way, again, I should continue. This video is already long enough. Tabuki, mother with the parasol. When I played piano, the reason I was stuck inside the birdcage, I was a prodigy. My dream was my mother's dream, piano, and brother and bird. There's a very distinctive and evocative art style change here, which I really quite like. Instead of our, anime style that we've had for the rest of the show, we go for a more painterly look, a little bit pastel-y, very kind of blurry kind of ideas through here. Still very beautiful, obviously, with the musical notes in the background, of course, as well. This could be a reference to a famous artist or a famous piece, but again, I'm a Philistine, so I don't know that kind of stuff. I do see the background. I see the sheet music, kind of the plan of what you want to play, of what is achievable to play, even if you can't quite grasp that as yet. The sheet music here representing what Tabuki wants to attain, even if you can't quite do it. It's very frustrating to see it written out in front of you when you can't kind of execute on it. So the story goes that Mum loves the piano, so far as she married a pianist, right? But then she broke up with him because he didn't have any talent. So this is from a very young age associating for Tabuki talent with worth, right? Hard work means nothing. It's all about being a prodigy. It's about, just having whatever it is. Keiju, don't disappoint me like he disappointed me, right? So again, very similar, well, kind of similar to Yuri's situation, right, with her father. Her father kind of kicked the other kind of parent out of the pitch, if that makes any sense, right? Again, in Yuri's case, it was a lot more violent, I think implied. This one was, pretty cynical, I would say, but at least she didn't kill the bloke, I don't think. My mother gave me a wonderful friend, so my only friend was a bird. I shouldn't talk with any human children because they will take away from the talent. Your mother loves talented people, don't you forget that. In that way, marrying this new up-and-coming composer seems like he has a lot of talent, and again, with that composer, gave birth to a younger son, who seems to be a prodigy on the piano, right? Here he is at probably 2 or 3, and he's already jamming out. He's gone crazy. So again, based on the mother's word, Tabuki sees this kind of talented prodigy type son and is like, oh, well, I have no worth now. He's replacing me, essentially, right? It's a new kid with a new father who is supposedly talented, as opposed to my father who wasn't, and he got kicked out. And again, in that way, I won't be worthy of love either. So again, I've got no support network, I've got no friends, I've got no other family, it's just Mum, and Mum's going to move on to this new kid now. So in order to maintain that /1 spot, we're going to freeze time. And how we're going to freeze time is an injury, right? So this is Tabuki essentially self-harming for attention / an excuse as to why he's not playing as well. So this really makes me want to rewatch the show. So that means every single time that we've kind of looked at Tabuki's hands and seen that scar there, we now think about the general motif of him self-harming because of his own lack of talent, right? And which ends up to be fruitless, right? It doesn't even work the way he wants it to work, right? Like, he still doesn't gain what he wants to gain from it. So it's this kind of useless scar that he's given himself that's kind of like this branding that he's always not going to be as talented, I will have to go back and see when it's used. It's probably in conjunction with talking about Momoka, who is the exact opposite of him, this person that's so very talented. Really, really cool imagery here with the bandage kind of closing around the hand, almost in a very kind of like rhythmic gymnastics, kind of almost magical girl kind of way. Yeah, the birdcage rusted shut that day. I was always going to be what I was going to be. I had no chance to fly anymore. My brother was the one that was let out of the cage. I was the one that was kept inside of it, right? Now, for the Momoka stuff coming up, let's watch this birdcage metaphor type of stuff. As well as this building here. Something about the lighting, very Monogatari, long shadows and so forth. But yeah, this building's definitely kind of a birdcagey motif as well, just in kind of its construction. So I think in general with this episode, I think you're going to get a lot of mileage from comparing this to the Yuri episode, right? And very interesting, in both cases they use Ringo to do this. So what did Tabuki not like about his youth and his upbringing that his mother supposedly did to him, right? Putting him in the cage, right? Ignoring him, shutting it, keeping it shut, all that kind of stuff. He almost shut his own cage in a lot of ways with the kind of hand business that was going on. Tabuki has internalized this and is then spreading it on to the next generation, right? In a way that's not entirely healthy. Using alcohol as a metaphor, their last episode is actually pretty apt in this regard, right? This kind of thing that is kind of destructive, right? This kind of habit that you can't kick, almost like this dependency, Either way, we're putting Ringo in the cage, essentially, right? We're keeping her in the elevator for most of this episode. I'm shutting you inside. I'm not letting you use your talents to help save the day here. Again, Yuri, very similar. I'm going to drug you and have my way with you, supposedly. It was weird. Again, much like I implied the father did, right? abuse, right? The cycle of abuse that's continuing from one generation to the next here. And again, the thing that's so very interesting about Ringo is the association to Momoka there, right? It's almost like they're taking out this angst on the person closest to Momoka that they can find. Almost in this weird kind of I hate you, I love you kind of way. Odd. Like, almost blaming Momoka for her own self-sacrifice and taking that out on Ringo. That's almost the philosophical turn you could take it. Tabuki says that this is now going to be the meaning of his life, to take revenge on the Takakuras for Momoka's sake. We get a little bit more reinforcing with this in a second, but again, Tabuki has such an inferiority complex that he feels like the only way he can be talented and important in the grand scheme of things is to avenge Momoka's death. Right? That is the only association I can get to somebody talented to even be in the same vicinity as them, you know? This general theme in the episode of time running out, of needing to make a stand, all this kind of stuff, kind of set with the setting sun of the scene as well, I think is quite good. Add into that, of course, the ticking clock with Himari and her condition, needing to get her back to hospital in time and all that kind of stuff. I think it just ratchets up the tension in a really, really cool way. This guy really is one horny penguin. Anyway, I digress. More about the father. Very interesting that Tabuki is looking for Kamba's father, right? You could, again, take a basic view and say that, yes, he just wants to take out revenge on the person that did the deed, right? The person that was actually going to do the terrorism. I think deep down inside, Tabuki still believes that, hey, the parents were the ones that did that. Like, we shouldn't blame the kids for what the parents did. Tie that into Tabuki's story as you will as well, almost forgiving himself and forgiving his mother in that process as well. Like, I don't have to be the things my mother was, you know? But more importantly, right, it's like this lack of father figure in Tabuki's own life that he then seeks Kamba's, right? I think there's part of that to it. That's the extra layer there that I kind of missed on the first run through. The father figures, sans Yuri, I guess, are all very interesting. Very, very missing. Ringo's father's not in the picture anymore, right? The Takakura father, we don't know where Kenzan is, right? Tabuki's father, we don't know what became of him, right? Broke up with the mother, haven't seen him again. Natsume, hasn't seen her father. I think this is very, very specific for the show and its overall messaging when we do get to it. So for me, the Kenzan, the Takakura father thing, I think it's enough of a Chekhov's gun here at this point. We've mentioned it enough that it would be kind of underwhelming if he isn't alive and doesn't come back at some point in the show. I think he will, be it 11th hour or not, and we'll need to address that when it does come up. He may even be a good kind of conduit for exposition and explanation of what actually happened on the day, because again, he would have been an eyewitness. So again, that's my broad prediction at the moment. He is alive, he is somewhere, even if Kamba is currently unaware. Diving into a flashback again, we have Tabuki in the child broiler, right? When I was abandoned by mother, I couldn't play piano anymore. I turned into an unneeded child. This is too unfair, so I turned into an invisible entity. I turned into an invisible entity. What did you mean by that? So this is the most information we've gotten about the child broiler yet, really. I think this is our best explanation for what it even is. So let's think about the first time it was used in the show. That was the Himari type situation. Let me just get that scene up. Maybe it'll be elucidating now. So here we are, very similar circumstance, child broiler gone crazy. So here we have a very, very young silhouetted Himari, it looks like, having some kind of interaction with another child that wears blue shoes. Now, if we're talking color associations, then the blue has been Shorma. The size difference there would start to make sense. Blah, 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 blah. This could be a direction. I think it may be Shorma, ultimately, right? However, there is almost a romantic twinge to it as well, because you're talking about it in the same breadth that kind of Sanatoshi is talking about this Bride of Fate type idea as well. I had someone very precious to me. He's my soulmate. Yeah. And then, yeah, that's where we tie back into the other kind of stuff. Point being, are these two more discarded children, so to say? What would make Himari be a discarded children here at this time during her life? What would make Shorma be a discarded child here at this portion in his life, right? If it is indeed Shorma, I don't think it is. Either way, the show has gone in incesty directions before, I will say. It offers the question of why Himari is here. Like, why is she an abandoned child here and now, I guess. That's all we can really take from it. Apparently, children in the child broiler eventually vanish and cease to exist in this world, for they are unneeded, all that kind of stuff. Very, very funny when Momoka kind of gets very extravagant and very heroic. She just very, very much sounds like Yui Hirasawa. Just she does. So, shoutouts to Kaon, of course. Again, the child broiler is largely a metaphor. This is not a real place. This isn't like a warehouse, I don't think. So again, what does you breaking Tabuki out of here mean? It means a very similar thing to the Yuri situation, in my opinion. You see a need, you see a kid struggling, right? And you're pulling him out of it, right? Again, if the child broiler is for unneeded children, Momoka is the one that needs you, giving him purpose in his life, all this other kind of stuff, adding to the tension, of course, when she does pass away, and informing Tabuki's decisions in the now. Very cute that the piano here is branded as Brains Bass, which is the kind of production studio here that's producing the show. Point being, hey, Momoka heard Tabuki playing in the music room. She thought that the sound was good, right? Potentially some kind of radiant thing, if we were going to be so direct about it. She heard this, but then Tabuki's like, hey, no, my hands hurt. I can't even play anymore. So again, you're valuing me on my piano playing, much like my mother. No. Momoka heard your heart. She heard the kind of feeling behind the playing as opposed to the sound itself, right? Something that you haven't lost, and again, always that kind of romantic kind of tone to it as well with the heart. So again, she's basically like, I like you for you. I think you should continue to be alive. However, all Tabuki's ever known is rejection. So he pushes her away once again, very obviously holding the kind of closed, rusted shut birdcage here as well. Much like I continue to say about the show as well, I do like its moments of comedy. These people like deadpan saying, we will be crushing you into pieces now, all the children below, it's time to kill you. Yeah, all that kind of stuff with this kind of very clinical, again, workplace type attitude is just very funny. Another thing here we say about the child broiler is it takes away your individual aspects, right? Think about the characters we see here in this scene, right? They're all kind of these background character designs that we've associated again with the rest of the show with the background characters. You will lose your features if you go through this thing. You'll become nobody, right? If again, especially in Tabuki's story, if meaning is in being special, you'll become unspecial if you go through this thing. We picture this with a bunch of shards of kind of glass, but it kind of has this almost like shredding paper aesthetic to it as well. Again, clinical is a word I'll use. Tabuki is content with this. He says he'll finally be free, right? He sees being invisible and death is, again, the kind of nth degree there, as free, right, at this time. Which is a pretty depressing outlook, I would say. Maybe, again, the black bird here, maybe a raven or a crow, a kind of omen of death in itself as well. Maybe this kind of thing, being his one and only friend, the one thing reflecting back at him, wasn't entirely healthy. Momoka here jumping in and saving the day. You have to be yourself. Only you can be you. You have power in your own individualism. Don't turn invisible. All these lovely lines. Again, ratcheting up the tragedy for current day. The opposite of the effect before, it was kind of binding his arm. He loses that bandage. He loses that restriction. He feels a lot freer in the hands of Momoka. Even in the framing right now, it almost looks like they're two birds starting to fly, right? Starting to glide through the air. Where it becomes very interesting for me is this kind of stuff, right? We have a man come on over and he starts burning Momoka's hand to let Tabuki go through the big shredder thing, right? I think this is a metaphor for the kind of physical effect that Momoka's body has from changing fate, which I think implies that Momoka used her power somewhat to make Tabuki's situation better, to the point where he wouldn't feel this depressed and feel like he wanted to be invisible and all this other kind of stuff. Again, a la Yuri's story with the Tokyo Tower stuff. Again, she kind of immolated there. It's not quite this bad here, but still, like, she sacrificed part of herself and part of her health for Tabuki's well-being, give up her life for somebody else. Very Christian, very Jesus-y thing to do. All adding fuel to the fire, in my opinion, than Momoka did something like that on the day in question, on the day of terrorism. The line here finally getting Tabuki to let go, or not let go, to become alive again, is live for me. So again, this speaks to Tabuki's fanatical, almost like cult-like sense of devotion to Momoka in the now, right? He sees his life as living for her, which again, of course, that's going to be devastating when this kind of pink-haired little girl passes away. That would suck. Based on the art style of this section and the flashback sections overall, it's heavily implied that You know, they're in the real world now based on the pastel colors. Again, if VLC wants to behave, kind of see it in the background there. And a small look at the back of your hand, giving some indicator that this physical injury made its way into this world as well. There's maybe a white-black thing going on here as well, because we have the bird going from that black color to the white when it's freed from the cage, flying through the air. There's also the black mark on Yuri's hand, like this stain on her forever in a lot of ways, right? But caused by me, so I don't want her to do that kind of stuff again, but she continues to do it. And again, getting big picture-wise, right, I think the show is largely concerned, much like Utena, with the consequences of overly self-sacrificing and the effects on those around you. Like, you may think it's almost like a band-aid solution in a way. It doesn't lead to other people having the ability and the kind of mental fortitude to actually process through any of these things if you just continually to sacrifice for them, right? It doesn't lead to their own personal growth. And again, it's self-destructive for you in the moment as well. Again, I think the show broadly, and Ikuhara overall, is trying to say something about this. Back in the now, we have Kamba running with reckless abandon to go and save Himari. He drops his phone once, which I think is very interesting, and we've also got the kind of yarn aesthetic going on as well, the kind of yarn idea. And again, as I talked about with the first episode here today, you feel a lot of guilt for that, because even if you don't know it yet, you were the one that kind of forced her to go out and get more wool. You're maybe even internalizing this here at this moment as your own jealousy leading Himari to do what she's doing. Like, I felt jealous that she may have been talking about Sanetoshi, which led her to go out and do this kind of thing when I said the color wasn't good. So here we have this elaborate setup, right, where we have Himari in this bathtub over this ditch. Very, Amazing Spider-Man 2 type location, if you know, you know. Where again, if Himari falls and splatters, then she fucking dies. Essentially, bring me your father or I'll kill Himari. I've got a huge kind of indicator that he is alive, and I want him to serve justice for the sins. Again, I don't want to pass this down to the kids, but if I have to, I will. You could say here that Tabuki's turn as a Bond villain is somewhat out of character and a little bit of a turn. But again, he's always been a guy that's been hiding something, I think, right? He's always been a bit of a fucking weirdo. And again, it's much like Yuri. We thought Yuri was one thing, and then, you know, that 2-episode arc happened, and now we have a very different opinion of her. Even Natsume. It turns out we don't know these people until we actually sit with them for a while. Yeah, I mean, Tabuki really seems to be in the know here, right? I know Kamba's secret. I know how he's getting the money to help save Himari. And of course, Kamba, being the kind of person that he is, doesn't want Himari to know about this either. So essentially, Kamba's doing illegal stuff. He's working with the same organization that his father was in way back in the day to try and earn money, get shady money, all that kind of stuff. I just thought it was like loan shark type shit, but it's a little bit more deeper than that. Again, I'm thinking there's a larger link to Sanetoshi overall with that organization. So that's why Kamba doesn't want to call the police, doesn't want the police to be involved in this kind of situation, and that works perfectly for Tabuki. He holds all the cards here. And again, focusing on Himari here, and her kind of learning the fact that Kamba is sacrificing this much for her, leading to her kind of stuff going on in this episode as well, where she almost kind of channels Momoka in a way in her own self-sacrifice to make sure that nobody else gets hurt. Ringo, in a panic, instead of calling the cops, calls Shawma. Shawma isn't picking up the phone though. I think the implication is that he's in the tunnel at the moment or something. He doesn't have service. On that same train, or maybe a different car on the same train or something, we have Sanetoshi just kind of looking through his pictures here, right? We have today's slogan here as well: hidden cameras strictly forbidden. Pictures show what people can't usually see. They show things they don't want to see. This is maybe talking to Sanetoshi's thing last episode about the difference between truth and reality as well, where truth is this perspective, your own personal truth, where reality is an objective view. A picture is always subjective, you know. Well, not always, but a lot of the time, right? You don't have that POV to it. It's a kind of blank shot of whatever's going on is going on. We then show a bunch of shots kind of incriminating Kamba, saying that he's involved in this organization, that kind of thing, which again was maybe given to Tabuki. That's the implication here, because like Tabuki throws this down on the ground. I've got hard evidence that you're working for this organization. Again, very much associated with the Penguin, of course. Pingu Corp, maybe. It's unclear. We'll see. Kamba says that the photos are meaningless, that it's a misunderstanding. Again, that angers Tabuki. He drops the chain even more, right? Again, threatening to hurt her so very much. Again, he's just convinced that Kenzan is involved here, you know? As Tabuki talks about his reasons for wanting to take revenge on Kenzan, we see his fingers here, right? He took what was most precious to me. Of course, every time he looks at his fingers, he thinks about how talented Momoka is and how he very much isn't. You've taken almost this kind of deified godlike figure from me. Of course I'm going to want to punish you. You could even make an association like rings around his finger as well with the scarring. Again, when do you wear rings? Engagements, that kind of thing. Loving kind of marriages, proposals, all that kind of stuff. He thought he was that close in with Momoka. That's again another kind of layer to that. His scars are almost his engagement ring to Momoka and what she represents. Momoka was truly special, talented, unlike me. Many unfortunate events in this world could have been averted if she was here. Again, it's unclear if you're aware of Momoka's power in the same way that Yuri was aware of Momoka's power, right? To that level. Again, maybe you're thinking literally, like again, disasters happen every day. Momoka could have potentially prevented these. This is a very interesting question being posed here by Tabuki as well. If Momoka was still alive, she could have prevented incidents like the one your father was responsible for. Again, passing the blame from the father onto the son in a very uncool way. Yeah, we get it. More importantly, I don't think you're getting the full view here. I think what we got in reality was the best case scenario. I think way more people would have been affected, potentially the entire city, if Kenzan got his way the way he wanted to get his way, you know? Again, continuing to deify her. She was a savior, she was a goddess, all these other kind of things, right? This penguin's very interesting. It's continuing to knit, even though it's kind of in the bathtub kind of sinking, right? Again, I've always seen these penguins as a view into the internal of whoever they're representing. Potentially, even now, Himari is thinking of a way that she can escape herself, trying to like knit a rope or something kind of to that effect, right? I even potentially thought that she was continuing to knit the sweater, self-sacrificing even to that level. I'd rather, you know, even though I'm in this kind of terrible situation, I'd rather keep going and keep Kamba warm as opposed to saving myself. Very interesting look here from Himari as well, looking up. Again, oh shit, I see how much this is killing Kamba. And thinking about all that she can do to help, you know? I think the thing Himari is noticing the most is the wounding of your pride and the toying that Tabuki is doing with you, and that hurts her more than anything, I think. Because again, from here we start to get into Himari choosing to sacrifice herself and all that kind of stuff. So again, this line seems pretty obvious now. Tabuki has internalized this. Children will pay for their father's crime. My father in of himself was this pianist that wasn't talented enough, right, to earn the affection of a mother. I now internalize that, right? I believe that my mother left me for a better kind of son, you know, kind of abandoned me that way. I'm paying for my father's crimes in a lot of way by doing that, right? Children will pay for their father's crimes. Hey, same shit applies to you. This isn't a fair world. I'm not going to give you an out here. Again, another bigger picture prediction. I think the missing piece to all of this is the Takakura mother. We don't really have much development on her yet. Yeah, she's going to be important, I feel. I really do. Some of the color work here on the kind of fencing here is very good. This same kind of pastel-y, rainbowy look that we saw during the flashback, kind of art change stuff. Very nice. Keeping the episode all cohesive and stuff. So from here, the pain that Kamba feels internally, the wounding of his pride, becomes external, right? He is being placed in a situation now where he needs to hold the entire weight of whatever's going on with his hand. And again, that chain looks pretty sharp. It's going to burn, it's going to cause it to be bloody, all that kind of stuff. Again, very interesting from the Tabuki perspective. Kind of forcing somebody into a situation whereby they need to wound their hands again, much like his scars on his. I think that's full of meaning too. And yeah, this yarn the entire time, you know, this ironic thing, the thing that brought Himari out of the hospital in the first place, the reason why she's even here, kind of buoying the scene throughout, I think. There's probably even something there with the different colors used and the colors chosen and all that kind of stuff, right? Again, we're associating it with the rope holding her up, right? That's kind of always letting a bit of yarn out, when the kind of thing falls and, the ball's getting smaller and smaller, time is running out, that kind of aesthetic to it as well. Tabuki here says that you don't need to feel responsible for her just because she's family. My mother didn't feel responsible for me at all, right? I don't have the same thing that you have, and maybe there's, again, a twinge of jealousy coming through here as well, ultimately. It is purely fascinating to compare Tabuki and Kamba. It's a character combination that I never thought about comparing, but again, this kind of father repeating the sins of the son repeating the sins of the father type idea, kind of connecting these two, is quite an angle to take. I really do enjoy it. I think it's really cool. And again, this here's a very important moment for Tabuki as well, as he sees Kamba's determination here, saying, "No, I'll never let go." That same kind of sentence that Momoka said when she was holding him from falling down, right? Again, this leads to his change of heart here at the 11th hour, where he sees the respective sacrifices of both Himari and Kamba for each other, gets reminded of Momoka, gets reminded of what Momoka represented, and doesn't want to hurt them anymore, right? Again, I'm seeing very similar to the Yuri situation, right? She is reminded of Momoka when she looks at Shorma caring for Ringo, right? Running in, trying to save the day, this kind of youthful exuberance and love to it that's no longer jaded, and again associating with Momoka, no longer wanting to hurt anybody, at least for that day. When you start to think of Momoka, it's only natural that you turn towards Ringo. Ringo, I'm sorry about everything that I've done. I must appear very monstrous right now. Momoka went through so much to save me back then, and look at what I'm doing now. So it's very confusing. Let's talk about a little bit of what even happens here, because how the fuck does Tabuki get to the bottom to catch Himari here in a second? Again, he's had his change of heart here now. He's realized what he's doing. I'm an abject failure in her eyes. I've become monstrous. Is this what she would have wanted me to do? He's kind of walking in a little bit of a weird pattern to the point where he might fall down as well. Again, he doesn't really value himself very highly now that he's done such a monstrous thing. And then we move over to the Himari and Kamba stuff. So I want to know how Tabuki gets down there. So for this scene, we've really ratcheted up the tension, the lighting, the shading. It all seems so very dramatic. There's even the kind of penguin things here, kind of posing as rose petals. It feels very Hollywood, right? In the way that these two lovers, if we want to call them that, are sacrificing each other for each other, or sacrificing themselves for each other. In a very tender way here, we have Himari grabbing onto the rope. "You've done enough, Khan," again using that kind of nickname there, denoting their closeness. And she's willing to sacrifice herself instead of hurt Kamba and his hand anymore. "Stop making sacrifices for me. You've done enough. I already know I don't have long to live. I'm probably terminally ill." So again, from a pure kind of objective point of view, it makes sense for me to sacrifice myself, right? Or a utilitarian point of view, like, hey, you're going to have more life than I will, therefore I should die instead of you. But again, of course, you're not going to believe that. You see your own truth instead of reality here, of course. So Himari here, "Mr. Tabuki, I will take my father's punishment. I'm willing and able to do that for him. Willing and able to sacrifice myself, getting hurt, for my brother's sake." Much like a Momoka type would do. Maybe even this showing of great sibling love between these two, the love between a brother and a sister. Not in that way, you freaks. I'm talking more about the wholesome kind, and again, the kind that he never had with his brother because of his compartmentalization of him, right? Do you think his brother, who's this piano prodigy apparently, would have really cared if, Tabuki was good or not? Maybe he just wanted a big brother. Maybe. I don't know. You could maybe even tie some of Tabuki's inferiority complex when it comes to being good at art and doing all this kind of stuff with his relationship with Yuri, who is this outright professional, very talented at her specific craft. I think there's maybe some juice you could squeeze there as well. I was fully prepared for Himari to die here as well. I'm going to say that in the here and now. Again, it's at that point in the season where I think it could happen, where I think it's logical for it to happen as well. Again, they really ratcheted it up. "Please live for yourself now." All these really dramatic lines, normally huge death flags. And again, obviously the jury's still not out on it, but she survived this episode. That's surprising. The yarn ball falls, the cherub in the background, this very kind of afternoon hue type kind of color scheme. The sunset is setting on this symbol of Himari, of the symbol of purity, and everything else that's good about Himari and whatever else in the plot, I don't know. hey, the baby of the family, I guess, as well. Yeah, she's going to die as it stands right now. We get a little bit of calm but dramatic dialogue here as well. Shauma here realizes what has just fallen as well. And kind of doubles back and is surprised to see what he sees, of course, as well. And we hear an almighty crash on the ground. Oh my god, what could have happened? That kind of yarn falls, almost that red string of fate going kind of, what's the opposite of taut? Loose. Going loose as well, not quite having that connection anymore, kind of withering down to the ground. Again, fully expecting her to be dead here at this time. But I don't really understand. I guess, how did she didn't fall then? Did she come up? Because you're looking up at Tabuki. Who cares? Who cares how he saved her? But he saved her. That's what matters, right? Just a little bit odd. I don't know about the edit there. It's really makes it feel like she's falling, but she ends up on top. Potentially there's something I missed there in that sequence. Either way, Tabuki had a change of heart. He saved the day. He stopped being the Bond villain, which was good of him. And Kamba and Himari now embrace. Very, very cool. In a very sibling type way and not in a lovers type way, which is good. So this is full of depth as well. Tabuki then walks towards the elevator, almost storming out, right? And pulls kind of Ringo from her spot. Like, there's the best shot of it, right? Kind of walking into the cage in her place, almost punishing himself for his actions, feeling monstrous about everything else, and walking back into his own metaphorical cage. Again, you did nothing wrong. You shouldn't pay for the sins of those that came before you as well. And, yeah, let you out of the cage. Let my little bird friend out of the cage. Why not? Ringo, don't grow up to be like me. Kind of lasting piece of advice that he gives her. Again, really seeing that kind of adult-child split here, right? I see hope for the future in these kids. Whatever you do, just don't become twisted and bitter like I am, right? Hey, there is hope for the youth yet. Let's not kind of be in our own little adult world. Let's consider their opinions, right? Let's welcome them in on discussions. Let's not be secretive. I think that's part of the thematic stuff coming through here. Shauma here makes his way to the very top of the building. He's a little bit too late, but he's here right in time, and the three kind of siblings embrace here, having had another really big day. First thing Shauma notices as well is the hand that's all fucked up because of everything that happened. The other thing we must remember as well is that we say that something bad will happen if we don't get Himari back to the hospital in time either, right? Is that anything? I think so. Even now, Kamba tries to sacrifice, even yet again. You take her, you go to the hospital, I'll be okay. I think that both of you need to go to the hospital, if I'm honest. Very important scene here for Ringo as well. That's kind of the very end of the episode as well, which I'll skip to now as well. Kind of ends with, you know, Ringo declaring what she ends up declaring. This is where, again, this is that final push for Ringo away from obsessing over Tabuki and wanting to be his boyfriend and all this other, or wanting to be his girlfriend, excuse me, and all that kind of stuff, right? Hey, don't grow up to be like me. Go with them instead. Forget Momoka's family. Forget the connection she had with the both of us. Go and be with these guys. Become part of their family. Become part of their unit. Just like how you guys shared curry very early in the show, share in this moment with this trio now, because it'll be ultimately better for you. Really great development here for Ringo, obviously, as well as Tabuki pushing her in that direction. Even the penguins are in on it, right? Still ultimately caring for, you know, your health and here at this time, Kamba's health, rather than getting out to safety with either of them, right? Look at this cute little family unit, helping to heal each other. Minus, you know, the porn. That's neither here nor there, but, you know, your mileage may vary. When Tabuki makes his way down the elevator, potentially a little bit of Utena in that as well, he comes to meet with Yuri, right? Yuri learns of his plan. Basically, Yuri had set up for tonight to do something with Himari as well, but she got distracted. Again, maybe the call from Tabuki was something to do with that as well. Maybe even tipping off Natsume to where she would be. That would maybe be a direction. And yeah, using this time to get his plan off, right? Instead of using hers. But this frustrates Yuri. Yuri believes that she would have went through with whatever she was going to go through with, that she was ready, willing, and able to enact that revenge. So, slap. We're just a fake family after all, just using each other. Drop the diary, and the slap. Even the rope there on the ground is so very interesting. This show's amazing, by the way. Dropping the diary here, dropping Momoka to slap Tabuki as well. There's a lot in that too. What is the slap about there? Is it, again, frustration that you couldn't do what you wanted to do tonight? your plan kind of got stifled by this freak who isn't talented enough to execute such a plan, that he didn't have the guts to do what I could have? Or is it about that fake family line? Do you two actually secretly care about each other to the point where you would be incensed that he would even call you guys a fake family? I don't read that second one as the correct interpretation. Again, I just see you as broadly disappointed that you didn't get your chance at Himari. Natsume even chasing her down even at this point. Gosh, I must crush her soon. Again, that entire grudge now moving away from Kamba and on to Yuri. Again, she has the diary saves Mario. That's the only important thing. Kanba, I can't leave you with them any longer. I think that means that Natsume wants to save Kamba from being in with the bad people that he was in with, that Natsume is also in with, but doesn't want to be in with, so she wants to change fate in that way as well. Yeah, that's a very interesting one. I don't know about Natsume there. I think, again, she wants to save Kamba because she likes Kamba, but more than anything else, she wants to make sure that Mario's okay if these people threaten that safety. Again, Mario's associating more with Sanetoshi, which is weird. There's also the father connection for Natsume as well. If I save Kamba from this, I'm also saving my father from this. If I get Kamba, I get my father back too, I think. Here at this point, we have Shoma once again hating fate. We just wanted to live as a happy family. Why has this happened once again? All we wanted was this. So this is a very important scene as well. I'm only realizing that now. The huge barrier right now between Shoma and Ringo has been this kind of Shoma feels guilty for the sins of the father type idea and doesn't want Ringo to feel forced to associate, it being painful and all that kind of stuff, right? I feel like this is the most tender and vulnerable explanation Ringo has given yet, that I'm not like Tabuki. I will never hate your family. I won't hold a grudge for what happened with Momoka, all that kind of stuff. Again, even though bad things may happen, it's still fate, and ultimately Ringo stays true to herself. She ends up loving fate, you know? It's very interesting that these very initial concepts from these characters are even perpetuating through to now. You hating everything what's going on, right? With needing to do all this kind of stuff, and Ringo still loving what's going on, reconciling that fact. That's just brilliant writing. It's very, very good. Ending the episode on its own title, so please be there for me. Again, this has multiple meanings. Obviously, the Tabuki angle with the Momoka connection, so please be there for me to catch me when I fall, all that kind of stuff, right? But again, obviously got this connection here in this scene here at this time, this kind of plea to Shoma and the Takakura family as a whole to almost be her new family, to be this new connection, right? Again, think about those curry scenes very early in the show. They've served as very good setup for what's happening now, right? With your own family falling apart as well, mum working too much, dad's got his own new family, all that kind of stuff, you having these people in your life is probably very healthy. Really nice found family kind of message to it, I think. And once again, reassuring Shoma that there's no hard feelings about the parent situation. Again, taking the exact opposite stance of Tabuki through the rest of the episode, who is holding said grudge. Again, perfect writing, perfect episode. What a show. What a show. And a very, very long session at that, recording all about it. This shit is flawless. I really love it. I really, really do. Yeah, I do. That's all I really got for you. 6 episodes left now. Hopefully it sticks the landing. I can't see any reason why it won't. Even if it doesn't stick the landing, I'm sure I'll find some kind of interpretation where I can find something to talk about it with. So, needless to say, I'm happy with the show. I really want to see more. I'm happy to watch it every single week. It's made these Monday slots really good. I'll say that. So yeah, again, next week's on Patreon if you wanted that already. Discord to talk to me about the show, of course. Like the video. Subscribe. I'm out of here. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later. Goodbye.